Hey there. Welcome to your deep dive.
Mhm.
Today, we're going to tackle a big one, a question that's been around forever but still feels super relevant.
Uh,
Do we actually have free will?
it's a classic.
You sent over these excerpts from David Deutsch's The Beginning of Infinity,
Yeah.
and I got to say, his take on this is really makes you think.
I think what's so interesting is how Deutsch uses these huge ideas like
Right.
virtual reality, time travel, the multiverse,
Yeah.
to explore what choice really means and what it means to be human in a universe with physical laws.
Yeah, the first thing that hit me was his point about virtual reality.
Okay.
I mean, we think of VR as this like limitless space where anything goes right.
Right.
But Deutsch points out that even in a simulated world, there are limits,
Yeah, that's right.
like hard limits.
He argues that even the most advanced VR you can imagine, one that can simulate any environment that's physically possible,
Right.
is still bound by the laws of physics in our universe.
Okay.
It can't just create a world where gravity doesn't exist. Because the generator itself is a physical object subject to those laws.
So even if we could like simulate flying or walking through walls,
Mm-hmm.
there's still this like underlying truth we can't escape.
Yeah.
It's like there's a fundamental reality
It's like a baseline.
that dictates what's possible, even in a pretend world.
Yeah.
I found that really interesting.
And it's actually a really important starting point for Deutsch's argument about free will.
Okay.
He uses virtual reality to show that even in a system where everything is, in theory, predetermined by these laws, there's still room for genuine choice.
I'm really curious to hear more about that. But first, I wanted to touch on another concept that caught my eye: time travel.
Okay, yeah.
Deutsch talks about this thought experiment
Mm-hmm.
where you could travel back in time
Okay,
in a VR program.
right.
And at first, you'd think,
Oh, this is going to be good.
right, that would open up all these
It's
paradoxes.
all sorts of paradoxes.
Like, what if you went back and, accidentally prevented your own birth?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that create like a logical
A
impossibility?
total contradiction.
Right.
Yeah.
But Deutsch says it's not time travel itself that creates the paradox.
Right.
It's our messed up understanding of time.
Okay.
He challenges this idea we have of like a single linear timeline,
Uh-huh.
past, present, future.
Okay, so instead of this single timeline,
Yeah.
Deutsch is suggesting we think in terms of a multiverse,
Okay.
this vast structure where multiple universes exist.
So there are like infinite different timelines happening at the same time.
And in this multiverse, our choices don't create paradoxes. Because
Okay.
each choice basically branches off into a different universe, or what Deutsch calls a snapshot.
So it's like instead of erasing our past or creating a contradiction,
Right.
our choices are actually creating new pathways through this multiverse.
Exactly.
Oh,
And it's this ability to navigate those pathways,
Right,
to
yeah.
make choices that actually impact our trajectory,
Yeah.
that Deutsch defines as the essence of free will.
So even though the multiverse as a whole might be deterministic,
Right.
our individual choices still have consequences.
Ah,
They determine which path we take through this vast branching structure.
exactly.
It's like we're presented with this cosmic choose your own adventure,
Yeah,
and the choices we make determine which story unfolds.
that's a great way to put it.
That's pretty wild. It makes you think about like
It really does.
the weight of your choices in a whole new way.
For sure.
But how does knowledge fit into all this?
Okay.
Because I know that's a big part of Deutsch's argument too.
It is, and this is where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
Deutsch argues that unlike things like energy or momentum, which are conserved,
Right.
knowledge is not.
Okay.
It can be created, destroyed,
Hmm.
and most importantly, it can grow infinitely.
So are you saying that the more knowledge we acquire,
Yeah,
the more choices we have available to us?
exactly.
It's like knowledge expands the map of the multiverse,
Yes.
opening up new paths and possibilities.
You got. Okay.
And Deutsch argues that this infinite potential for knowledge growth is actually what gives us free will. Our ability to create new ideas, solve problems,
Yeah.
discover new possibilities,
Right.
that's not predetermined.
Okay.
It's a dynamic process that expands our horizons and our capacity for genuine choice.
So it's not just about the choices themselves. It's
Yeah.
about the knowledge that informs those choices.
Exactly. Our ability to create and apply knowledge is central to Deutsch's definition of free will.
Gotcha.
And he uses a really fascinating concept called the Turing principle to explain why this is so important.
Now, the Turing principle, That's been a while since college computer science classes.
It's a bit of a throwback,
Right.
but a really powerful idea.
Refresh my memory. What exactly does that entail?
So the Turing principle basically says that a universal computer can simulate any physical process,
Okay.
no matter how complex.
Wow.
So theoretically, you could have a computer program that simulates the formation of galaxies.
Or even the workings of the human brain.
So like a universal computer that could basically simulate anything.
Yeah, that's the idea.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But what does it have to do with us and our free will?
Well, Deutsch uses the Turing principle to highlight the unique nature of life,
Okay.
and especially human life.
Uh-huh.
He argues that life itself is a form of computation,
Yeah.
with genes acting as the programmers.
Interesting.
But unlike a static computer program,
Right.
living things have the ability to create new knowledge.
Mm.
They can
Yes.
evolve and adapt in ways that a pre-programmed machine never could.
I see. So we're not just running a program.
Yep.
We're constantly rewriting the code as we go.
Exactly.
We're learning, adapting, and making choices based on new knowledge that we create.
That's it.
Okay.
And this ability is central to both life and free will, according to Deutsch. It's what allows us to break free from the limitations of a predetermined program
Yeah.
and become active participants in shaping our own destinies.
Wow, this is getting pretty deep.
I know, right? It's a lot to unpack.
So we've got virtual reality showing us the limits of simulation,
Mm-hmm.
time travel suggesting a multiverse of possibilities,
Yeah.
and the Turing principle highlighting the unique knowledge-creating power of life.
It's all connected.
How does Deutsch tie all of this together to explain how free will actually works in our lives?
That's a great question, and it takes us into the heart of Deutsch's argument.
Okay.
He says that we often experience this feeling of being trapped by circumstances.
Yeah.
Like we don't have real choices.
I've definitely felt that.
Right. We've all been there.
Yeah.
But he claims that this feeling arises not from a lack of free will,
Okay.
but from a lack of knowledge.
Interesting. So we might feel trapped, but that's more about our limited perspective than some cosmic lack of free will.
Exactly. Deutsch's point is that as we gain more knowledge, new possibilities open up. What seems inevitable today might become totally avoidable tomorrow with the right understanding.
That's a really hopeful way to think about it.
Yeah, it's empowering.
Yeah, it's like knowledge itself is a form of freedom.
I like that.
But I have to admit, the idea of a multiverse with all these branching paths, it's still a lot to wrap my head around.
Yeah, it's mind-bending stuff.
Yeah.
And Deutsch actually introduces another concept that adds even more complexity to the picture.
Okay.
Fungibility.
Fungibility.
Yeah.
Now, there's a word I haven't heard in a while.
It might sound technical, but it's a really important idea for understanding how this multiverse works.
Yeah, okay.
Think about it this way.
Okay.
Imagine you have $2 bills
Okay.
that look identical.
Right.
In classical physics, even if they look the same, each bill has a unique history. One might have been printed earlier, passed through different hands, and so on.
So even though they seem interchangeable,
Yeah.
there are subtle differences that make them unique.
Right. But Deutsch argues that in the multiverse, things can be truly fungible.
Okay.
He uses the example of a bank account.
All right.
Your balance is just information stored in a computer. If you deposit $1 and then withdraw $1, does it matter if it's the exact same dollar you put in?
Not really.
No.
Because in that context, the dollars are just information,
Exactly.
not physical objects with their own individual histories.
They become fungible units within the system.
Okay.
And Deutsch suggests that this concept applies to universes in the multiverse as well. Initially, universes might be identical, like those dollar bills,
Okay.
but as events unfold,
Right.
they differentiate, creating unique histories.
Okay.
But some aspects of those universes might remain fungible.
Okay. I think I'm following.
Yeah.
So you're saying there could be multiple versions of me in the multiverse,
Yeah.
and some of those versions might be interchangeable in certain ways.
That's one implication. Yes.
Wow.
But it's not just about identical copies.
Right.
It's about the relationships between those copies and how they interact.
Okay.
And to understand that, we need to bring in another concept,
Yeah,
entanglement.
Entanglement. Okay, now we're getting into some serious quantum physics territory.
Here we go.
I've heard of it, but it always seemed kind of mysterious.
Right, like an almost science fiction.
Yeah.
Basically, entanglement is this phenomenon where two particles become linked, even if they're separated by vast distances. It's like they can communicate instantly, regardless of how far apart they are.
So even if those particles are in different universes,
Yeah.
they could still be connected.
Exactly. And Deutsch suggests that entanglement plays a crucial role in how universes in the multiverse interact.
Okay.
They might seem separate,
Right.
but their fates can be interconnected in ways we don't fully understand.
So how do fungibility and entanglement actually affect our choices
Okay.
if we're operating within this multiverse framework?
Well, remember how we talked about our choices leading us to different snapshots or universes?
Yeah.
Fungibility and entanglement add a whole new dimension to that.
What's
It's
that?
not just a simple branching tree.
Right.
Our choices can ripple across the multiverse.
Yeah.
Wow. Influencing not just our own trajectory, but the trajectories of other universes and even other versions of ourselves.
Wow. It's like a cosmic butterfly effect.
Oh, I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Our choices are sending out these ripples of consequence across the multiverse, shaping things in ways we might not even be aware of.
That's a great way to put it. And this brings us back to the concept of free will.
Okay.
It's not just about choosing between predetermined options.
Right.
It's about participating in this dynamic, interconnected system
Yeah.
where our choices have consequences that go far beyond our immediate understanding.
It's like we're not just choosing our own path.
Right.
We're also helping to shape the entire landscape of the multiverse.
Precisely. And Deutsch argues that this power we have to shape the multiverse is tied to our unique ability to create knowledge.
Okay.
Remember, knowledge is not conserved. It can grow infinitely.
Right.
And this is what gives us the capacity to make truly free choices.
So the more knowledge we create,
Yeah.
the more possibilities we open up, not just for ourselves, but for the entire multiverse.
You got it.
It's like a positive feedback loop
Yes.
of freedom and understanding.
Exactly. Deutsch's argument is that the infinite potential of knowledge allows us to break free from the constraints of determinism and become active participants in shaping our own destinies,
Yeah.
and even in a way shaping the destiny of the multiverse itself.
This is definitely a lot to process.
It is, right.
We've gone from virtual reality to the multiverse, from fungibility to entanglement.
It's a wild ride.
It's a wild ride.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
I think that's the beauty of Deutsch's work.
Yeah.
He weaves together all these seemingly disparate ideas
Yeah.
into this really compelling and thought-provoking narrative.
So where do we go from here?
Okay.
What are the practical implications of this view of free will?
Yeah.
Does it actually change how we should live our lives?
That's a great question, and it leads us to one of the most empowering ideas in Deutsch's work,
Okay.
the concept of the universal explainer.
Universal explainer. That sounds kind of cool. What does Deutsch mean by that?
So Deutsch argues that human beings have this unique capacity to understand the world through explanations.
Okay.
It's not just about reacting to stimuli, right?
Yeah.
It's about actively trying to make sense of things, to uncover the underlying causes and principles that govern reality.
So we're like detectives
Yeah.
trying to solve the mysteries of the universe.
I love that analogy.
Oh, yeah.
And Deutsch believes that this ability to create narratives that connect cause and effect,
Yeah.
that's what sets us apart from other animals.
Where's that?
And even from artificial intelligence.
Interesting.
It's what allows us to generate new knowledge
Uh-huh.
and expand our understanding in ways that were previously unimaginable.
But how does this ability to explain connects to free will? I'm still trying to wrap my head around that.
Right. Okay. So think back to what we discussed about the infinite potential of knowledge. Deutsch argues that our capacity to create new explanations to solve problems and to envision new possibilities.
Yeah.
That's what fuels free will.
Oh.
It's not just about having options.
Right.
It's about understanding the implications of those options, making choices based on that understanding,
Right.
and then creating new knowledge from those choices.
So it's not just about freedom from constraints.
Yeah.
It's also about the freedom to create, to explore,
Yes.
and to shape reality based on what we know and what we value.
Exactly. And Deutsch suggests that this freedom to create, that's what distinguishes genuine free will from simply reacting to our environment.
Okay.
And this creative capacity is powered by our ability to function as universal explainers.
That's a really powerful way to think about it. It's not just about picking A or B.
Right.
It's about actively participating in this ongoing creation of knowledge.
Yeah.
And using that knowledge to influence the world around us.
Absolutely.
It makes free will seem much more expansive and profound than I ever imagined.
Yeah, it's definitely a shift in perspective.
For sure.
Deutsch is arguing that we're not just uncovering a pre-existing truth, we're actively shaping reality
Okay.
through our explanations and our choices.
So like we're all contributing to a constantly evolving story.
Exactly.
And free will allows us to influence the direction of that story in meaningful ways.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
But if reality is constantly evolving,
Yeah.
does that mean there's no ultimate truth?
Oh,
Does it make everything subjective?
that's a common concern.
Right.
But Deutsch would argue that the opposite is true.
Okay.
The fact that knowledge can grow infinitely doesn't negate the existence of an objective reality.
Okay.
It simply means that our understanding of that reality is always deepening,
Uh-huh.
always becoming more complete as we create new knowledge and refine our explanations.
So it's like we're on this never-ending journey of discovery,
Yes.
always pushing the boundaries of what we know and what's possible.
Exactly. And our free will empowers us to choose the direction of that journey. We can explore the paths that intrigue us the most,
Yeah.
contribute our own unique insights,
Right.
and add our own threads to this ever-expanding tapestry of knowledge.
It's pretty inspiring to think about free will in this way.
Yeah.
It's like we're not just passengers on a predetermined ride.
Right.
We're co-creators
Yeah.
of the reality we inhabit.
And that's the key takeaway I hope you've gained from this deep dive.
Yeah.
Deutsch's view of free will is not just a philosophical concept. It's a call to action.
Okay.
It's a reminder that we have the power to shape the world around us,
Yeah.
to create a better future for ourselves and for future generations,
Mm-hmm.
guided by the boundless potential of knowledge and the creative spark of our own free will.
Wow, what a thought-provoking journey this has been. Thanks for diving deep with us. We hope this exploration of free will has left you feeling empowered and excited to embrace the challenges and the choices that lie ahead.